And we're live. Pep Talk UK. I'm Joe Pugh, joined with the man himself, Kenny Ken. How are you, Kenny?
Massive week of sports, coming up. The blue ribbon division of boxing. Anthony Joshua, pay-per-view star, a stadium filler, on many people's cards in terms of his resume, the top heavyweight in the world, and that includes fighters like Tyson Fury and Dillian White. Tyson Fury fans will argue about that, me included, but you can't ignore and you can not fail to acknowledge what AJ's bringing to the table. There's going to be a packed crowd. AJ is a stadium filler against pound per pound, the best fighter in the world in terms of his cruiserweight, but will Usyk be able to translate those skills, power, and class against one of the best in the business? That's going to be a really, really good fight. And the North London Derby's the day afterwards, but it's all about the boxing. And if these two don't deliver, then they're never going to deliver. And plus, we've got other news as well. Okolie is going to be fighting Dillian White on the 30th of October at the O2, live and exclusive on DAZN. Also, there's rumours, unconfirmed, that DAZN are thinking of doing an amalgamation or a buyout of BT Sport to take their football highlights. Where does that leave Queensberry Promotions? Where does that leave Frank Warren? Very, very interesting. Eddie Hearn getting a finger in the pie, isn't he? Where DAZN goes, Eddie Hearn follows BT Sports. Amalgamation, buy out their rights, maybe buy out BT Sport, even get their platform on Sky. It's very, very interesting. DAZN have already got rights to football matches across the world, but not in England. So this is very, very interesting. Again, rumours, and it's over to BT Sport to see what they can do about it.
100%. Great little introduction there, Kenny. As echo what you say, massive fight week, AJ versus Usyk. First stadium fight in the UK, I think, since COVID.
I believe so.
And the first time AJ has fought in front of a crowd in the UK since September 2018. Obviously, he fought in front of 1,000 against Pugh, but a big crowd, shall we say, a full capacity stadium, let alone arena. It's going to be massive. Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe for all related AJ Usyk content this week, because we will be covering fight week.
Is that a West Ham t-shirt?
It is a West Ham t-shirt.
I think they might as well let you take that last minute penalty, let alone Mike Noble. Mind you, he's got an excellent record with penalties.
He has. I was gutted. I was there yesterday, and I was absolutely gutted. But
you played well. You played very well.
We did. We let them in it a bit in the second half, and obviously Lingard's goal. But hopefully, will it be the only time you'll be cheering at the Tottenham Stadium on Saturday, Kenny?
I believe so. It's because of COVID, I haven't been able to go to an away game for Arsenal against Tottenham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So I'm going with my wife. We're going to find ourselves at the park. We're already trying to find a football club to see where we can park. But it's something I'm going to really look forward to. We've got a cracking bill. We've got Callum Smith is fighting on that bill, I believe. I understand Marku, he's been shouting the odds. He's been saying, I want a piece of the action. Well, I don't think you're going to have a packed crowd before the main event, but you are going to be in a stadium. So hopefully Marku would deliver. But, it's a cracking bill. I don't know. I'm going to have to go to my Bible, which is my iPad, and to see what's on the bill. Or maybe you can enlighten me.
Yep, I'll get you on it. But that's a really good fight for me. Florian Marku versus Baxter Podence. I think that's a really good fight. Obviously, he has been on the Matchroom Italy cards quite a bit. And he's looked really good. He's fighting an undefeated opponent. I'm just going to get the full card here. So
Well, we'll do it simultaneously.
Okay, yep, cool.
And what we do is we have a race to see who gets it first.
I'm there. I am there,
All right.
Kenny.
Can you share it on the screen, or you have the technology to share it on the screen?
I don't have to, but I'll read it out. And
Screen. Can you do the screen? Can you do screen share?
I can't on this laptop, unfortunately, because
Don't mate.
where I use a Mac, it's all security protected.
Oh, brilliant! So, question I need to ask you before we get into nitty gritty: are you going to be attending? Are you going to be attending the fight? Or are you going to be doing a watch along?
At this point, I'm not attending the fight. I don't know, but news will be coming about that very shortly. We've got to discuss.
Good stuff.
News will be back about that shortly. But Campbell Hatton's on the card, Kenny.
Once again.
Against Sonny Martinez, 2 wins, 4 losses. And is he going to get a knockout? He always looks for that knockout, Campbell Hatton. Will he get it? Will he get his first knockout at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday?
Well, the first thing about it, if it's there, if the fighter's dead and he knocks out, then you knock him out. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. He's never been knocked out.
Hold on. Sorry about that, Joe. Yeah.
That's okay, mate.
As I said before, at this stage, if you go for knockouts, then invariably you're going to make mistakes and you're not going to look good. Box, knockout's going to be there. The good thing about knocking out your opponent is that he will make the mistake and he'll leave that opening. Sometimes when you go trying to create those chances, you go in gung ho, you run out of steam. Remember, he's only new to this game, and it's all about his stamina as well. You've got to build to it. I know there's a lot of pressure because of the Hatton name to knock people out. Probably earn his continuing his spot with Matchroom, but you've got to build a fighter. You really have to build a fighter, and the best way to build a fight is to learn your trade. And in fights like that, the knockouts will come. Fighters will make mistakes. You don't have to just go for head punches. His dad was a very good body puncher as well. So those are the sort of areas and opens where he can stop his fighters. And I still think, if you knock someone down on the head, yes, they can get up. But if you knock them down on the body, it's very, very difficult. For fighters to recover from something like that. You know what I mean? And that's why it will happen. Happen. Don't go looking for it. It'll happen. Good fighters always find a way to knock their opponents out.
Definitely. And we'll move on to Callum Smith's debut at light heavyweight against Lenin Castillo. I think the main talking point of this one, Kenny, is that obviously Callum has parted ways with Joe Gallagher and is now being trained by legendary trainer Buddy McGirt. What's your opinions on that?
See, that's the thing about that as well, is that it always seems to be a situation where, fighters always let people get into their ears, even before or after they've lost, they lose a fight. Oh yeah, this fight, Joe Gallagher can only take you to so far. Certain aspects that another trainer can get out of you. And in some cases, it's true. But Callum Smith, with all intents and purposes, froze on the big stage when he fought Canelo. He basically got overwhelmed by Canelo's reputation. He forgot what he was good at. He's 6'3". He had a great weight advantage. He's an excellent body puncher. And he's got good movement. However, he froze to the occasion. Whether going with Buddy McGirt, it's probably going to bring something out of him. But Callum's got to remember what he's good at. And I always look at these our fighters, especially when they go abroad. Where they fight not just under a different trainer, but they fight a different style. The kind of classic British style, amateur style that we fight is a lot different from the American style, where it's all about movement, speed, and different aspects. In Britain, we're very conservative. We're very technically, sound to a certain extent. But moving forward, I think that hopefully Buddy McGirt doesn't take too much away from what Callum's good at, because Callum's got some exciting fights coming. He's part of a very, very strong British light heavyweight contingent, and it's very strong at world level. as well. So, there's some really good fights for him, but he's got to build himself up now because, like Lyndon Arthur, obviously he's isn't able to do his rematch with Anthony Yard because of injury, but he's another fight. Anthony Yard I've mentioned already. You also got, Craig Richards, you got Callum Johnson, and and also
Boatsy.
you've got and Boatsy, and these are just at British level who are strong at British level, and then we also got to look at the world level. People like Bivol, Babetiev, and probably who knows, another rematch with Canelo at light heavyweight. So these are the kind of areas that Callum needs to go through. But if you're going to change your training, it's probably the best time to do it now rather than the 11 now. But I still think it's disappointing that he's left Joe Gallagher. But I believe I think his brother's left Liam.
Yeah, Liam's left, and obviously Liam's got a big fight against Anthony Fowler on the 9th of October in Liverpool. I'm really looking forward to that night, Kenny. I think that's been really good.
It's double. It's the zone card in Liverpool. Shannon Courtney's fighting Watson, and then you've got the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder trilogy.
You've got Birmingham, a Frank Warren show in Birmingham that night as well.
Yes.
Brad Foster versus Cunningham. Callum Johnson's on that one. So it's a packed night for boxing, that one. Moving on, what I think will be the co-main event is Laurence Okolie. He makes his first defense of his WBO cruiserweight world title against Prazovic. He's 15-0. It's a mandatory defense because he won a vacant title. So the way the WBO works, usually if you win a vacant title, you've got to go straight into a mandatory defense. Good for Okolie to get out. And what are you expecting from the Source on Saturday night, Kenny?
Well, I think it's going to be a very good workout. He's with an excellent, very, very good trainer in Shane McGuigan. Young enough to come fight. And one thing is that he's got immense power and very heavy-handed. But one thing about Shane McGuigan as well is that he's got him, like I said, getting his feet moving a bit better, and he's getting him to sort out that jab, get that jab moving a bit quicker, double jabs. And I was very impressed in his last fight. So in terms of like a good defence, again, Laurence Okolie, he's going to be looking to make a mark this Saturday, because I think his future clearly is not going to be at this level. We're definitely looking at a heavyweight in about 18 months' time. So again, win your belts, try and unify it, and then go and earn some money in the heavyweights. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think he'll unify the division, Kenny? Maybe against Lunga Makayabu or even a Bradis?
I sincerely hope so. I really hope he does, because I think what's happened, these are big, big fights, and I think Eddie Hearn's more than capable of getting these fights on the table. And I think once he gets on the table, once I genuinely believe he's the best cruiserweight out there, and once I believe he unifies the belt, I can see nothing but, him, being unified champion and moving up the heavyweight. I've got so much confidence in him, so much belief in him. I don't know anyone who hits as hard as this guy, and hits painfully hard. I think even, I think his jab's probably just as lethal. You know what I mean? He is so heavy-handed. I'm not just talking his size, but I just think in those legs, he just gets so much power, and I just think that he'll clean up at cruiserweight.
Definitely, and then hopefully, as you say, he'll move up to the heavyweight division. It'll be a fantastic addition to the heavyweight division, which leads us nicely into the main event. Before we get talking about it, we'll get some of the comments. I've just asked who wins AJ versus Usyk, and we've got Pavan Sahota says AJ wins on points. Ace of Yisuen, I don't know how to pronounce that one, but it says might only be £5 or £10 in it on the night. That's referring to the weight. We put, is Usyk too small for AJ? Laid Affolblay says very tough fight for AJ, but I'm sure AJ will pull it off. I'll be there live to watch it, so he'll be there, the same as you, Kenny. Martin Butler says AJ will get favourable judging if it goes to points. We'll talk about that as well. Tom McGugan says Joshua has nothing to prove. He will be too strong for Usyk. And we've got Blue Sky says AJ by KO. And finally, Prince Teddy, Kenny finally got the tank top on again. He's got it on. He's got it on.
Well, I just had 2 runs today. I had a run at lunchtime, and then just before I had this podcast, I was feeling a bit lethargic. I was feeling a bit, bloaty. So I thought, right, what's the best way to go get bloated? Don't go on a running machine because you can't change your pace. Go on a road running. Nice fresh air. And I feel like really light for it. You know what I mean? It's open up the airways and,
Lovely.
Nice little top as well, tight top to wear. What else can you wear when you go running in this kind of humid weather?
100%. But we'll kick off with the AJ Usyk talk. It's been a long time since we get these massive nights with AJ. We spoke about it briefly at the start. As a fan that's going to be there on Saturday night, Kenny, how much are you looking forward to it?
Oh, absolutely looking forward to it. Me and my wife have been very privileged to that we've been to a lot of these massive fights, and including Anthony Joshua, Carl Frost, but mostly Anthony Joshua. I think the first time I had that kind of atmosphere is when I went to a Ricky Hatton fight. With me and my wife, we're at Manchester, and I thought, you know what? We both said this is probably the best atmosphere we've ever been to, and she said that, and I agree with her because I've been I've been to watch Arsenal all over the country, Europe as well. But for that one night, the atmosphere in the MEN Arena when Ricky Hatton had his comeback fight, albeit ending disastrously, comeback fight, I thought, I don't think I'm going to get an atmosphere like this again. And then 2 years later, I went to the George Groves fight with Carl Frost too, and I thought, yeah, you can't top this. But Anthony Joshua, being the Fury's fights, I went and seen a lot of his fights at the O2, but that fight with Klitschko, you can't top that atmosphere. That's kind of event. It was an event. It wasn't just a fight. It was an event that you just went, I was there. And I just think, when you've got a top level fighter like Alexander Usyk, who's definitely going to come to win. He doesn't know what it's like to lose a fight at professional level, and he's going to be severely confident. He's bulked himself up for this fight, so he's probably going to surprise a lot of people. A lot of people think he's going to just use his skills, give away a few rounds, but don't be surprised if he thinks, right, you know what, I'm going to come forward and I'm going to try and take his head off. You never know, because you can never say never at heavyweight level. He's going to be prepared for everything. And I think.
Do you think then, Kenny, that AJ needs to? Because I've heard a lot of people say about it that AJ needs to come out like he did at the beginning of his career, the pre-Klitschko days. He needs to come out and attack. He needs to be aggressive. He needs to just put constant pressure on Usyk, because over the past 4 or 5 fights we've seen AJ try to box more, try to box clever, get behind the jab, use of the jab. I think the earliest he's got an opponent out of there, but since Klitschko is round 7, and before Klitschko, that was that was the longest he'd gone, because he was getting everyone out there. But obviously that's a step up in opponents. We had unification bouts in Joseph Barker. That the ref didn't allow that to really play out as fans how we wanted it to play. But if you're team AJ, if you're Rob McCracken, what would you be telling AJ right now to beat the former undisputed cruiserweight champion and elite boxer Alexander Usyk?
Well, the first thing what AJ's done is that ever since he lost to Ruiz Jr., one thing we noticed in his last couple of fights is he stripped down, in terms of his movement, his stamina as well. So what's happened is you saw a more athletic AJ when he fought Ruiz. He knew that he didn't want to mix it with Ruiz because Ruiz has got quick hands and combinations, so he fought him long range. When he fought Pulev, he kind of mixed it up. There was bouts of long range, and then when he got his timing and he was able to get inside and use his uppercuts, he was able to overpower him and, like I said, pace himself. In terms of like what he'll do with Usyk, I think one of the things AJ's got to look out for as well is that he doesn't want to turn this to a chess match where Usyk builds up a good, and what I say is like a good lead, which is going to be very difficult to retrieve. One of the things people have said when they've studied Usyk's fights at heavyweights, and something I noticed as well, is that he's fought quite a few heavyweights with like slow feet, and Derek Chisora being one of them. But what's happening right now is that AJ is very quick in terms of speed of hand and foot. So in terms of like speed of hand and foot, if AJ can take Usyk's power and is able to, like I said, defend himself and keep his head down, then there's no harm in AJ going out there and standing on top of him, because one of the things AJ needs to do, he can't give Usyk any leverage whatsoever to get his punches off. He's got to frustrate Usyk, and the best way to frustrate a fighter is standing on top of them. Use your considerable strength on top of them, and then use your jab, and then you use your combinations, and don't give him room. So I think the best tactics for Anthony would be cramping Usyk for room, give him nothing. Obviously Usyk's not a Deontay Wilder where he's got this kind of one punch power, but he's a feinter, he's a mover, he's got quick feet, and he likes to go by that sort of jab and then like the left cross, but he only could do that with leverage. AJ doesn't have to just rely on his reach, because when sometimes you rely on your reach, you're giving Usyk room to maneuver, room to do his feints, room to kind of use his feet, come up and use his combinations. You don't want him to be able to do his combinations and move. So again, cut it off, cut the ring off. You're quick enough, you got the power enough, you can sit on top of him, and you've got ability to heavy-handed. But again, as I was chastising, like I said, Campbell Hatton for going gung-ho. I don't want AJ to do that. I want AJ to build his attacks. But what AJ can do, you don't have to, like cramp him through and go gung-ho. What you do is you cut off the ankles, you frustrate him, and make sure you are throwing punches. Because I think one thing with Usyk, and the reason why he wins a lot of fights, is because what happens is that fighters are too concerned with cramping him through, sitting on top of them, but not throwing punches. So what's happening, right, is that he's nicking rounds because he's throwing the punches. You can't have a situation where he's throwing more punches than you. So cramping for him, but make sure you are using your skills. You are getting your combinations in. You are throwing those jabs, and make sure that jab is hurtful. Bang, 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 double jab, hurt him. Don't encourage him. You've got to get him back in areas he doesn't want. The jab has to be sharp and snappy, but it can't be just like it's got to be bang, bang, and then come inside, and then when he comes out, you move. When he comes out, you come out, he moves back, he comes again, and then you sit on top of him, because at the end of the day, you don't want him sort of be on the back, because like I said, he's a world-class fighter. He's going to be able to fight on the back foot because he's got those sort of skills. He's going to be on the back foot like that, boom, boom, fight. So what's happening, right? When he's on the back foot, you've got to make sure you're throwing punches. There's no good trying to cramp him for room, and then he's a back foot and he's throwing the punches. You've got to be able to get in there and throw punches and get inside. There's got to be body punches as well. There's nothing that hurts a smaller fighter than a body punch. You know what I mean? Don't look for to knock his head off. The body punches. Tell you one thing now. A good body punch, what it does, it slows it down. So these are kind of tactics that AJ needs to do. Cramping for room, but get your punches off. Especially when he's on the retweet. Don't let him. There's nothing worse than someone on the back foot still beating you to the punch. The best fighters in the world who are on the back foot can do that. Andre Ward was able to do that. Joe Kozagi was able to do that. Usyk does that fantastically well. Tyson Fury does it as well. But the reason why they're able to do that is because you cramp for room, but you're not throwing anything. AJ should use his speed to his advantage. So by all means, you use your speed, hand and foot, move, boom. Use your speed for bang, bang, bang. But you also use your speed when you're inside to punch, and move, and move. You know what I mean? But don't let him have leverage, because boxers, what do boxers need more than anything, especially when you're when you're like I said, like how do I say it? An artiste. Artists need room. You can't be an artiste if you ain't got room to, showcase your skills. And that's what you got to do. Cramp him for room. Don't give him any room to show how good he is. You know what I mean? You've been fighting a lot of southpaws, yes. And sometimes, the thing when you fight a southpaw is normally it's kind of the sort of overhand right and the counter right hand. But also, with a good southpaw with excellent skills, no room. And I think that's what AJ's tactics got to be. It has to be make sure that he's the one who's out punching Usyk. He's the one who's jabbing. He's the one who uses speed, but make the ring smaller.
Yeah, 100%. And I was re-watching the Usyk versus Bellew fight last week, and the thing that struck me early on in the rounds is that you kind of got the feeling that Bellew was growing in confidence in that fight, but Usyk was allowing him to do that. He was kind of leading him into a false sense of security, but being really, really smart with it and kind of working him on, leading him on to shots. Do you think that is a danger for AJ, that he could be fed into Usyk's fight, because we know how clever Usyk is?
Well, definitely. It's from McCracken. Again, it's about range, isn't it? It's all about ranges, isn't it? So it's all about ranges and get your distances right. Usyk's only going to be able to do that if he's got his distance right. Yeah, Tony Bellew was lauding a full set of security, but Tony Bellew, when he ran out of steam, had his hands down. He was making mistakes. He enabled he gave Usyk the room. He was on a retreat, and Usyk was able to sort of get that room. But the left hand that took him out was that a lot of this down to exhaustion and confusion, and boom, it was a punch that he was never going to get out from. But I think it wasn't so much the power; it's just the timing, and Tony was like very exhausted. But Tony, let's face it, he's what I'll call a small heavyweight anyway. He's not a big man. He's not going to be able to outman Usyk, and he's certainly not going to be able to outskill him. So for him to put in that performance, and I thought Tony put in a very fantastic performance, but on the day it was just someone who just had a bit more class beating. AJ, I think what a lot of people underestimate AJ is he's getting better. Our heavyweights are becoming better fighters with fights. Dillian White, we all know that there's levels that Dillian can still go to. Walling's going to be a very good fight for him, but let's
hard fight. We'll talk about that later.
But that's what Dillian needs. Dillian needs he needs a situation where he's got something that could be taken away from him like a blink of an eye. He needs a fight, but we get to Dillian anyway.
Yeah.
In the other podcasts, but in terms of AJ, in terms of he's got a very high skill set. People teach when he lost against Ruiz, a lot of people who I call Philistines, casuals, and quite frankly disrespectful, decided because AJ lost, which happens to heavyweight title, wasn't good. He wasn't that great anyway. And they say the same thing about Dillian White. People tend to remember in boxing you getting pummeled rather than the good things you do. We're doing it with Deontay Wilder. We're forgetting that phenomenal knockout records for any fighter at any division and any heavyweight in any heavyweight. That knockout ratio is fantastic. But right now, he's not that good anyway. He was never that good. So when you see people on the floor unconscious, don't matter then, because they're bums. They're bums. I mean, Tyson Fury is one of the most highly skilled fighters of all time, but Deontay Wilder still managed to get through to him. But Tyson Fury's out of weight fight. They'll make every excuse to denigrate a fight, and I think they did that to AJ afterwards. I think AJ's slowly got his respect back after he beat Pugh, but I'm sure the knives would be out for AJ if somehow Usyk wins this fight. That's what boxing is. Boxing is a very, very fickle sport because majority of people who put bums in seats, with all due respect, are casuals.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's 95% of the boxing target audience is the casuals because you've got that base, like me and you, and a lot of the people watching the live tonight, and we'll get to the comments in a minute, guys. So keep them coming in. They're going to be watching anyway. We're going to be watching it. We'll probably moan. We would moan about it, but if AJ was fighting, I don't know, any Joe Bloggs, then we're going to watch because we're boxing fans. We love the sport, but then you've got to smash into that next target audience, the casuals, the wider sporting audience. And I think the great thing that they've done with Anthony Joshua, it's worked with Ricky Hatton. A lot of football fans come over. Obviously, you need those football fans because then it creates that atmosphere, it creates that build, and that is when it becomes an event.
Although boxing fans don't like the football fans, they're not in with all the songs. But a lot of, I think what happens, you'll find a lot of boxing fighters are football fans, and a lot of football fans are boxing fans, and a lot of working class areas, especially in places like Liverpool, it was either football or boxing. So it's the same sort of thing. They both, although there are some boxers who are not into football, don't like it. People, you know what I mean. So and that's fine, but it is what it is. But in terms of Anthony Joshua, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about Anthony Joshua. Whoever he fights, he is box office. Some sportsmen are box office, regardless of who they play. Man United are box office. You could talk about Man City, you could talk about Liverpool, you could talk about Chelsea, you could talk about, those, teams, that people are thinking they'll win the league and get the top four. But the biggest show in town is Man United. It's like cricket. The biggest show in town is the Indian cricket team. That is the money shot. They are the payday. Everyone in cricket, wherever they tour, they get big TV rights because of the Indian diaspora around the world. But most importantly, their box office. Anthony Joshua falls in that category, box office. In a way, that I think Tyson.
It's a very small bracket, though, isn't it?
It's definitely. And Man United Football Club are in that bracket as well, and Real Madrid, of course, Real Madrid and Barcelona. But Tyson Fury, for all his greatness, would not, in my opinion, be able to fill a stadium. He can't do it. It's pointless trying to get Tyson Fury in a fight. To fight anyone at Old Trafford unless it's probably maybe Deontay Wilder, maybe, or Anthony Joshua. Any other fight, no chance, mate.
I'd disagree with you there, Kenny. I would say that a Dillian Whyte fight would probably sell out Old Trafford.
Who's that? Dillian Whyte?
Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury. I think that would probably sell out.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that the fact that AJ he's got that mass audience, but then there's a lot of hardcore Tyson Fury fans. Whether it's enough to fill out these stadiums, we'll know. But does Tyson
have a crossover audience though? That's the thing. When you talk about Tyson Fury in terms of a crossover, crossover audience, Anthony Joshua, that's guaranteed. He's got a very big crossover audience in this country, and he will fill out a stadium. And it doesn't matter. He could be fighting me and you, and he'll fill out a stadium because it's him. You know what I mean? We're the sideshows, and I think that's one of the things about AJ. And the fact that Sky is so lucky to have him fighting on their platform, and Eddie Hearn's so lucky that he's promoting this guy because this is he preaches money. You know what I mean? And I think that AJ keeps a lot of people in work, not just within his management team, but I think he keeps the odd people matchroom at work, and he was keeping a lot of people at Sky at work. But, I suppose Sky with their new sort of TV deals are preparing the life, without AJ or Dillian if they both go with the zone.
Yeah. It's the star power, it's attraction. But we'll get some comments in it from the chat. Keep them coming in, people. It is very busy tonight. Here we go. Even if Usyk comes in at 250, he can never beat AJ. Do you think it's important, Kenny, for Usyk not to come in too big, because then that's kind of taking away his own advantages? Or if it was up to you, he'd want to beef up as much as possible?
Well, it's a catch-22 situation because ideally you want Usyk to transfer because Evander Holyfield came used his size a lot, and he managed to use his size of Mike Tyson a lot, but he wasn't able to do that. But he'd still survived at the highest level of heavyweight. And sometimes you have to get it right. You don't be too big, because at the end of the day, I always say, whenever you transfer from one trainer to another, or whenever you transfer between weights, don't forget what you're good at. Don't forget your attributes. And if speed is your attribute, then you have to make sure that if you are gonna, like I said, transfer, weights, make sure you're doing it in a sort of like scientific, training sort of way, like weights, small weights, rather than doing it by food. You know what I mean? And it has to be done gradually. You know what I mean? And I think Usyk, obviously, he wants to be able to overpower his man, but there is still room for Usyk to be able to, like I said, win a lot of fights at this level. However, power, I can see why Usyk's doing it, because at the end of the day, power is the defining attribute at this kind of level, the blue rim division, and every fighter at that division has to be able to knock his fighter out. Tyson Fury had to do it to Deontay Wilder. He had no choice. He had to man up and get in front of him. Because at the end of the day, if he did his boxing skills, made a mistake, Deontay Wilder might have did the right hand. So he was able to push him back. And I think Usyk has to be in a situation where he wants to be, if he does beat Anthony Joshua, he wants to be a long-range champion. He has to be able to impose himself on other fighters, because what will happen is that if he doesn't do that, he'll get found out at heavyweight level.
Yeah, this is a topic that's come up quite a bit in the chat tonight. Andrew Clack says, AJ will be favoured by the judges. He's the champ. It's to be expected. So if it does go to the scorecards and it is tight, Kenny, would you be expecting AJ to get the nod?
Well, the thing about it is AJ can still win this fight on points anyway, because people just assume that if it goes to points, then it's going to be Usyk's fight. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. Usyk, some points decisions can go to a split decision. Sometimes it can be a draw, or sometimes it's a wide points decision. People are going to think, oh yeah, because AJ didn't knock him out and Usyk's a skillful fighter, they're going to think that Usyk's got cheated. But let's not forget that Anthony Joshua's got enough skills as well. And Usyk, if he's cramped for room and he isn't able to get leverage his punches, and AJ beats him to the punch, makes use of his jab and the combinations, and that punches him, he can still win at points anyway. So I don't think it would be controversial if Anthony Joshua wins on points, because there's Anthony Joshua's not any other heavyweight. He's a top level heavyweight. Yeah. I think Usyk will even struggle against Dillian Whyte, because I think Dillian Whyte's a top level heavyweight. Joy Joyce will probably think, hang on here, I'm a bona fide heavyweight as well, and I'm like a juggernaut. I should be able to beat him on points as well. So again, I don't think the judges will have a hand in it. I think if AJ wins on points, it'll be because he's a skillful fighter, and he's proved he can win on points because he did it with convincingly against Ruiz Jr., where he outfoxed him, and gave him very little leverage for his punches. And every time he tried to come forward, he was met with 1-2 and a 3. So
go on, Kenny. Sorry.
no, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I was just going to say, W. Riley says you are forgetting AJ's punch resistance is not good.
Well, you say
what would you say that, Kenny?
You say his punch resistance is not good, but what? Because he lost to Ruiz. You know, he maybe not, but he got battered in the fifth and sixth in the fifth round, and it's all of the sixth round when he fought Klitschko, but he still managed to get up and win the fight. You know, you talk about punch resistance, but the art of fighting at this level is most importantly with AJ skills is not to be caught. You know, when you talk about punch resistance, we're assuming that Usyk's going to be able to be the one to put AJ in his arse in terms of getting that power. We don't know that. So again, it's a very interesting point, and some you agree, but I don't think that his punch resistance will be an issue in this fight, and I don't think he's a punch moving forward. You know, a lot of the fights, if you look at his fights, all right, there was Ruiz Jr., and then he got caught, on the nose a few times by Povetkin, and then before Povetkin, there was Joseph Parker who ran away, and then you had Takam, who just didn't have the adequate skills to get near him, and then there's Klitschko. So I don't think, in terms of punch resistance, I don't think that'd be an issue personally. But I understand where people come from, because the Ruiz Jr. first loss is very recent in a lot of people's memories.
Definitely, and we've put Usyk in the top 5 heavyweights right now. Sweet Science Boxing says no at the level of opponent. Yes, skill-wise, I think that's a good point, because the level of opponents hasn't been great. I think it's Chad Witherspoon's and Derek Chisora, obviously. We know your opinions on Derek Chisora. I love Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora Parker.
He's only signed a management deal with Anthony Joshua's company.
I know, 258 management. That was shocked. I was shocked by that, but that's great for Del Boy.
Tony Bellew said about David, hey, wherever there's a penny, wherever there's a penny, you'll find David. Wherever there's a pound, you find you find David. I think he needs to, use that analogy with his best mate in boxing, Derek Chisora.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but would you put Usyk in your top 5 heavyweights right now, Kenny?
Well, yes, because I don't know, because if you look at your top 5 heavyweights, you're gonna put Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury, or Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua in 1 and 2. Number 3, in my opinion, is, and people will never agree with me, is Dillian Whyte.
Wow,
Dillian Whyte,
not Deontay Wilder.
Dillian Whyte. Then Deontay Wilder, and then after that, it's up for grabs. It's up for grabs. Walling's going to think, "Wait on it. What about me?" Joe Joyce, believes he's up there, but in terms of Usyk,
Andy Ruiz,
they're all good fighters. But you put Usyk there because of the pound per pound. He's at cruiserweight, and he's an excellent fighter at his weight class, and he's been a great amateur. However, in terms of pedigree, Andy Ruiz has got every right to say, well, hang on, I'm better than that. So is Joe Joyce. You know what I mean? Every right. And I think the heavyweight division is quite strong outside the top 4. So I think maybe putting Usyk there, you're putting him there with a reputation rather than who he's beaten and who he's fought at that level. So I don't think, personally, it's going to be a very comfortable position for me to put him there. I'll put him there for now, but I'll be obliged to change my mind, because if I look in my sort of archives, other fighters do have a shout to be number 5.
And I don't think AJ's actually fought a southpaw since Charles Martin.
He fought Charles Martin in
since he fought Charles Martin.
Charles Martin, yeah.
When he won the IBF
but you know title. What people are going to say? Charles Martin got knocked out in the second round, so he's not a good fighter.
Yeah.
It happened. So
will he have trouble against the southpaw, Kenny? Do you think?
Well, he's only going to have trouble because of the skill set, because you've got to respect Usyk's skill sets. But you know, as I said before, you're only gonna. The only way you have trouble against southpaws is if you give them enough room to manoeuvre, and you know, when you give them enough room, and they're quick and they've got speed of hand and foot, and they're hard to hit, then yes, that invariably you are going to struggle that. But that's only if you let them give them that sort of leverage. If you don't give them leverage, then you know it will be difficult to work out, but you will be able to work it out once you get your range and once you start beating the punch. I always say one thing with kind of southpaws: get that jab going and make sure when you get that right hand, you hit them hard. And that when you hit them hard with that right hand, you discourage them, and then that will enable you to get a foot in the fight. You know what I mean? I've seen so many fighters fight southpaws, and sometimes these southpaws win fights by just not even throwing punches. I remember McKingston when he fought he fought
Chris Congo.
Yeah, when he fought Chris Congo. You know, I think Chris Congo was probably 3 or 4 rounds behind when he realised that, oh my God, I'm behind here. And I think what kind of put him off guard is when McKingston came at him and he just went, and then he was going, oh, what happened? And then he did it in another few rounds, and that's saying it the round. And by that time, when he worked him out, it was just too late. And I think Anthony Joshua can't allow him to be on that front foot. You know, do his feints, cut the ring off, give him no leverage to move. You do that, and you're halfway there.
I think with tactically, when you look at it, from my perspective, is AJ has to look at this fight differently to the likes of Pulev, the likes of the second Ruiz fight. And even the likes of Povetkin, because in my opinion, although because he was hurt against Povetkin in that second round, I think it wasn't a prime Povetkin, and I think it's one of those ones where once AJ got in there, it was easier for AJ to dismantle on the night, and then. We look at, obviously, the Ruiz. We know what happened with the Ruiz fight. And then the second Ruiz fight was more of a job of, right, let's get this win. We know how to beat this guy. Now let's do it. And then you look Pulev, again, a fighter that I would probably say was past his best. Another older fighter. But I think mentality-wise, you said it earlier, Usyk's a winner. He's never lost before. He doesn't know what it's like to taste defeat in the professional ranks, right? And he rises to the occasions. We've seen him. He's not just an undisputed champion. He won the first ever World Boxing Super Series. He knows he isn't going to be afraid of the big stage. And
not at all. He's a revel in it. He's a revel in it.
Exactly. I love the fact that he's experienced the UK fight fans with the Tony Bellew fight, so he's going to feel comfortable. He's fought Derek Chisora in the UK. Granted, that was without fans. He's comfortable. He's a man that is going to be comfortable around the media, the press. He's going to be not intimidated by anything at all. And there could be some mind games from Usyk. Usyk's one of these guys. He's a really lovable guy. But I think he will throw in some mind games. He won't be afraid to try and mix it up with AJ. And it's all about how AJ responds to that. And it's really important that I think, for me, the key to this fight is AJ not getting frustrated.
I think that's the thing. You mustn't ever get frustrated. You should be mentally strong. You have to be mentally strong. You can't be complaining to the referee and feeling sorry for yourself, because at the end of the day, time, 3 rounds can seem like ages. But when you're not at it, it could just go to blink of an eye. I mean, 3-minute rounds. rephrase that. And I think that's what AJ needs to do. He needs to be on. He has his mind on the job. Everyone, you're very correct when you talk about Usyk's record, and you talk about the levels he's gone to in terms of his cruiserweight career. But he's fighting a top level heavyweight. He's fighting an A-list heavyweight, not just in terms of reputation, but in terms of ability as well. He's fighting the best of the best, and it's a case where he'll have to adapt. He'll have to ask himself, all right, can I make this next step? Because this is a top fighter. This is a big man. I'm not going to be able to outbox him. I have to be able to get this guy's respect. I have to be able to hurt him, and I may have to try and knock him out, because as a lot of people in the panel have said, that they feel that AJ, because of his reputation as a champion, he might get a points decision, albeit controversially, if on Usyk's part. So again, these are where Usyk's he may think, well, I've got to make a statement here. I might have to come out. I might have to buzz him. I might have to get his respect. People, someone in the comments said AJ's punch resistance is kind of diminishing because of we had a half fight with Ruiz Jr. in New York.
And we've got Kenny. Sorry, but we just got here just to back up what you just said there. George Stanley says AJ's got a chin like an eggshell, and Mr. Jones says AJ's chin equals glass. So, you're right.
Usyk's got to try and find it out. He's got to find it out. He's got to try and find it out. So Usyk, if he has the mindset that, well, I've got to come and knock him out, we'll come and find out, mate. Because there's going to be a point in the fight where he's going to have to be on the front foot. Maybe a judge, if they see him on a back foot and they see him trying to use his skills, but AJ's also throwing equal amount of punches whilst coming forward, then that could count against him range-wise. But this is something that Usyk's got to be able to translate, because there are some good fighters, who are not going to give Usyk any respect whatsoever. They're going to come there and they're going to try and bully him and man him up. And they're a lot better than Derek Chisora. So Usyk's got to find a way at this level, and preferably starting on Saturday. How do I get this man's respect? How do you get a man's respect? Hitting him hard and buzzing him and potentially knocking him out. That's got to be like the money shot.
Can Usyk hit hard enough to hurt AJ, do you think?
Well, again, you say, can he hit him hard enough? Well, if you're at heavyweight level and you're a big man, you know, there's no such thing.
Oh, we've just lost Kenny there briefly. He was just chatting about the punch power of Alexander Usyk. Let us know what you think in the comments. I'm sure he'll be back very shortly. But yeah, is Usyk got enough? Has Usyk got enough power to hurt Anthony Joshua? And here we go. Kenny's back.
Sorry
Carry on,
that.
Kenny.
It's sorry about it. I kicked something over. Every time I see me do that, it just comes out and comes out again. Maybe it's giving me a minute to say, "Hey, you're using so much juice." But you know, in terms of like the translation of power, Usyk has to be able to. Can Usyk hit hard at this level? Well, when you're at heavyweight level, you should be able to hit hard. You have to be able to hit hard. You know, you can't be a heavyweight who's just going to be just bounce and move and blah blah. And I do think that he does have that power, and maybe AJ might find it. However, we know AJ's got power at this level. We know that. We know he's not just a big lump. We know he can hurt someone, and he can knock you spark out with a right hand and uppercut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean? And it could be a combination. Remember, we've seen him put fighters down with a left hook. You know, Ruiz went down with a left hook as well. Yeah. So he's got power in both hands. We're going to find out whether Usyk's got that kind of power as well. You know, one punch power. Let's find out on Saturday.
100%, and I certainly can't wait. Hooper72 says, I think Usyk has enough power to hurt AJ. They all hit hard. Mr. Snooker 01 says Usyk doesn't need one punch power. The combos will put pay to AJ.
100%.
Joshua will come out blazing. He knows he will lose if it goes the distance. That's interesting. Kenny disagrees. He thinks that AJ could
disagree because
win.
you're saying you're basically saying AJ's got no boxing ability, which is completely untrue. He has a lot of ability at this level.
We've got Andrew Clack says, how can you be £200 and not have the punch power? Paul Corfe says AJ fights old men. And so I can't find it now, but someone said, when do you think there'll be the fight will start? Here we go, Daz Reynolds. Any idea what time they'll be in the ring on Saturday? I don't know exactly, but I'd hazard a guess between 10 and 11 UK time. Question: when has AJ knocked a person out with one punch? Kenny, do you want to answer this one? I think.
Let me just think. Let me just think. One punch.
Punch.
Charles Martin, right hand.
Yeah, Charles Martin.
Second knockdown, right hand.
Was it Gary Cornish? Did he do Gary Cornish with
Gary
one
Cornish
punch?
as well? One punch. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But in terms of like Dillian White, it was like a combination where he buzzed him and then he's hit him, finished him off with an uppercut. But ordinarily, if you want to see a one punch knockout, you have to go to a certain place in the deep south, in Alabama, where a certain person called Deontay, surname Wilder, is the exponent of the one punch knockout. You only have to look at, I don't think I've seen a fighter do that. I mean, what he did to Spilsha and then Brazil, oof, bloody hell. I think a truck hit, that was similarly hit by a truck or a train. Poor.
Ortiz in the second fight.
Exactly. Boom. Yeah.
Obviously, I think he's locked out 40 of his 41 opponents, isn't he? So, here we go. We got Paul Coffey says AJ's best fight, who's with Klitschko, he was 42. This is really interesting then, because I was been listening to other podcasts this week, Kenny. If AJ beats Usyk, where does that rank in his resume of the opponents he's beat?
Up there.
Yeah.
Up there, because Usyk's a top fighter. People, you can't because at the end of the day, a lot of people think that skill wise, Usyk is going to be like a Rubik's cube where AJ is not going to be able to get the full eight, all the colours. And then if he does get all the colours, then he's going to take a lot of time. So it'll be an amazing achievement if he wins on points, and if he batters him, it'll be really a fantastic achievement. It'll be probably his best win. It'd be a best win because if he wins that, then the only ones that's going to probably surpass that is if he beats Tyson Fury. Yeah, and who knows if Deontay Wilder somehow finds a way to beat Tyson Fury and he fights AJ, where it'd be a fool not to, and AJ overcomes them, that is the case where AJ said, "Well, I've beaten everyone. What's next?"
100%. And if a fighter, slightly off topic, but we'll go with the heavyweight thing. If a fighter, for argument's sake, AJ or Fury beats, in AJ's case, Usyk, then Fury twice, or in Fury's case, Wilder, then AJ twice, do you think they should retire because they've completed it? Or is it then their duty to defend their titles?
Well, it's getting mixed messages. I mean, John Fury's saying that his son is going to fight for another 5 or 6 years. I mean, no one in boxing seriously believes that. So if say Tyson Fury does beat then I think Tyson Fury will walk away. I think Tyson Fury feels he's on a mission to in terms of like men's mental health. And I think that is something that's very close to his heart. Because, he's had a huge success rate by just talking about his experience. And I think that's where he wants to go. In terms of AJ as well, AJ's been, it's a hard slog heavyweight title level. He's got a lot of money. He's managing fighters as well. But, it's the buzz, isn't it? Sportsmen, when they retire, doesn't matter how much money they made and everything, they need a routine. They need the fanfare. They need it. People think that sportsmen come back for financial reasons. No, they come back because they need something to do. They need
the love of the sport.
Yeah, they need that Sky TV, calling them. They need to have people ask them for a picture. Saying, yeah, when's your next fight? They need that. So, it's not as easy to retire as you like. You say you want to run off to the sunset, but the sunset is a dark place for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
100%. And we just put this: what happens to the heavyweight division if Usyk beats AJ on Saturday night? Ken, that'd be absolutely massive, wouldn't it?
Well, what happens to the heavyweight decision is that Joe Joyce will think, right, me next, or Tyson Fury. I think Tyson Fury will think, you know what, he may think, right, I'm only going to get out of bed for AJ. He may not want to fight you. So what's the point?
Do you think there'd be a rematch clause?
I actually watch Joshua always has as much clauses.
Yeah. So, just for argument's sake, Usyk beats AJ. Do you think we'll ever get the AJ Fury fight?
We'll get the AJ Fury fight, but whether it's going to be a situation where it's going to be a fight that everyone's going to want to watch, it's going to have to be rebuilt. You know what I mean? It has to be rebuilt. It's going to, it's not a given. And I think that's the thing with fighters when they lose. Sometimes it takes a little bit shine of it. It will get back, but some fighters transcend that. AJ, I still think, is the payday for a lot of fighters. So even if he does lose, I still think there's big fights out for AJ. There'll be an expectation that if AJ, gets his rematch, he wins his rematch. But I think the majority of people in boxing and casual fans aren't going to be wrong when they state that AJ's going to win this fight. Won't be comfortable, but I think he'll win it.
Yeah, and that obviously that's your prediction right there, Kelly. But from the start, I've always said this. I think it's going to be a really close fight. I think at stages, probably early on, I think it's going to be really close, and then it depends. I think rounds 5 to 8 are key in this, because that is going to be a turning point. Providing there isn't no big one punch knockout like we spoke about, there's going to be this. That's a key turning point. 5 to 8. Who can start getting comfortable? Who can gain maybe a bit of a lead going into the championship rounds and grow in confidence? Because, as I said earlier, Usyk's main job in the first 3 to 4 rounds is maybe let Joshua feel comfortable, but don't let him get too confident, because we don't want AJ to grow in confidence, because we spoke about Deontay Wilder being that one punch finisher. We know Fury is the smooth, skillful boxer. Well, Anthony Joshua was always the predator finisher. He was one of the best finishers, obviously, we see with Dillian Whyte, and in the end with Vladimir Klitschko.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. The buzzword you just used is finisher.
Yeah,
that's the buzzword, finisher. And AJ's a finisher, Dillian's a finisher. You know what I mean. And that's the thing, and that's one of the things where once AJ gets you and hurts you, you stay hurt. You know what I mean. When he's on it, the only time he let someone off the hook was with Anthony Ruiz.
Yes.
And he won't be making that mistake again. He's ruthless. The kind of the sort of age. Like the Femi days, the Femi or Watford days. It comes out in him. Because Anthony Joshua, he was Femi Joshua, who was well known at Watford and North London as a very streetwise guy who got himself in trouble and took no prisoners. I think when AJ has someone buzzed, Femi comes out. Femi of Watford comes out.
And that's what a lot of people want. They call him for this old school Anthony Joshua, if you can call it that. But I just see this comment, which is really interesting, that just made me strike up this little scenario. Stephen Holyfield says, Fury says he is the best heavyweight that has come out of England. Hello, what about Lennox Lewis? He boxed everyone. Lennox Lewis, one of the greatest fighters to ever come out of Britain, no matter what weight. But my question to you, Kenny, is if there's a clear winner between AJ and Fury, if that fight finally does happen, and obviously AJ gets through Usyk and Fury gets through Wilder.
Never happen. It may never happen.
It may never ever happen. But if we get a clear, defined victor between this huge rivalry in the heavyweight division, do they go ahead of Lennox Lewis, in your opinion?
No, because Lennox Lewis. Because you've got to think about Lennox Lewis. He had a lot. He had better. You've got to remember, Lennox Lewis had Riddick Bowe in his era. Didn't fight him.
Never fought Riddick.
He had Mike Tyson. Even though Mike Tyson at the tail end of his career, he had the Klitschko brother. He had Fatally. Klitschko just coming across. He also had
Holyfield.
He had Holyfield. He had McCall, who he had
Frank
to
Bruno
beat as well. If you put Frank Bruno in that category as well.
Yeah.
If he had a very, very difficult era to negotiate, and he came through it. There was a times where he was putting kind of a lot of big fights where 50-50s, where he just went boom. To the extent that he went down on kind of a Dillian White side of kind of Metro. He said, right, all right, I'll take him on, let's have it. And he beat a lot of good fighters. He had a lot of obstacles coming up. I mean, the first one, his first, proper fight where, everyone expected Lennox Lewis to, come a cropper was then Gary Mason. Fought Gary Mason in 91. 91. Everyone thought Gary Mason was going to do him, but Lennox Lewis done him on the jab, used his range. Gary Mason got stopped because of his retinas in his eye. And then he had to fight Razor Ruddock. Majority of people in boxing, me myself, thought Razor Ruddock was going to beat him because Razor Ruddock was that level. Razor Ruddock fought Mike Tyson twice. Yeah, he fought. He fought Bone Crush. He fought some really good fight. And
great fight.
Razor Ruddock had the best left jab. Best jab in the business because Razor Ruddock's jab was like a jab right left hook. So when he jabbed you, when he turned his fist, when he jabbed you, he could knock you out. So that was a big fight as well. And he had a lot of power. But Lennox Lewis used his size, took him out in 2 runs. So if he had a lot of minefields to go through, and I still think he has to be, like I said, the best heavyweight this country's produced. And I think. It'll go a long, long way. But then again, if Anthony Joshua, beats Tyson Fury, he beats like White in a rematch, gets the fight Wilder, and then any up and coming fighter who everyone's used on, and Anthony Joshua takes him out, then you say he'll have to be the greatest because Lennox Lewis, 92 up until 2003. Yeah. 2003-4. He took on all comers. So that is in the Anthony Joshua's in tray and Tyson Fury's in tray. He took on the best. The best at different eras, and he took on some really big names. Yeah, he lost. Yeah, he got.
But he beat everyone who ever fought.
Lennox, he beat everyone. He won his rematches as well. Remember, he got off the floor. Yeah. Remember, McCall knocked him out. McCall had a nervous breakdown. 97. Hassan Rahman knocked his spark out. Rematch, knocked him out.
The controversial of all controversial draws with Holyfield.
Holyfield again, but he won clearly on points this time. Exactly. No, just so when people talk about Lennox Lewis and they compare it to Joshua and Fury, people, need to remember what Lennox Lewis was. And he's British as well. All this crap about him being Canadian. Lennox Lewis needs to
talk about that in the...
Lennox Lewis was born in 1965 in West Ham and he left England in 1977 to go because his mum had a job in Canada. He spent his formative years, and he went secondary up until he actually went secondary school in East London until he had to join his mum. What do you want to do? Live on his own? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he came, and he chose to come back to this country, and when he was back 23, 24, and he's British, and as far as I'm concerned, he's a British superstar.
And he's a sporting icon, I think, Lennox Lewis is. And just to quickly wrap up this little conversation, we've gone on a bit of a tangent here about Lennox Lewis. I see someone in the comments said that AJ is jealous of Lennox Lewis.
No, I don't think he's jealous. I think what's happening is that AJ bit, and rightly so as well, because there was a lot of criticism, unjustified. I mean, nothing worse than when you've lost your title, you've been knocked down 4 times, you've referee stopped, and you've got people who you respect putting you down, demonising your record and saying you can't do this, you can't do that. He's going to bite. You saw his interview with Anna Woolhouse. Lennox is a clown and blah blah.
Yeah,
well, yeah, he bit. He's got nothing to be
long
jealous
time
about.
ago now as well.
Yeah, he's Anthony Joshua's got nothing to be jealous about, because at the end of the day, he's in a situation where he can match what Lennox has done in the boxing, and most importantly, he's managed to get himself in a situation where he's got the love of the British public in a way that Lennox probably wasn't able to get, and he's probably got the love of the British public in a way that Frank Bruno, achieved when he was in his pomp. Plus, he's actually won the titles as well, because in this country we always accuse each other of loving a loser or the underdog. Well, you can't call Anthony Joshua, first loser or underdog, because he's a winner. And I think that's
Olympic gold medalist, straight in there,
world heavyweight champion, defended his title on numerous occasions. He's going to be up there after he retires. History's going to be very kind to Anthony Joshua. And I'm not just talking about as a boxer, but as a British sportsman. History will be very, very kind to him.
Yeah, 100%. And we just put on, let us know in the comments. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. Pep Talk UK will be covering all of the fight week content for AJ versus Usyk. But Kenny, AJ versus Usyk or Fury versus Wilder 3? What one are you more excited for?
Both of them, because simple reason is that it's the blue ribbon heavyweight division. Tyson. Everyone would like to watch Tyson Fury fight. Deontay Wilder's right hand is a detonator, and you're staying up because you think, right, Tyson. You think Tyson Fury won. You know he's going to win 98%, but you think, hang on here, that guy's got a detonator, and he could hurt Tyson Fury, and he could put him out cold. Tyson Fury, it seems like the only fight that Tyson Fury respects, well, he says he respects, is Deontay Wilder. He actually believes that Deontay Wilder is second to him as the best heavyweight. Now, he doesn't. He's not particularly respectful of the fact of Deontay Wilder's excuses, but he's been buzzed by Deontay and hurt badly, so he respects him in that respect. So that's a massive fight. Obviously, Anthony Joshua is very aware of the pamper fan status of Usyk and the fact what he brings to the table. And he believes that if he overcomes him, batters him, or outskills him, that's going to be one of his best achievements so far in his career. So both big fights, both sellouts, and British boxing fans are going to be talking about it. And the reason why big fans are going to be excited, because they're going to say, well, whilst now these two are out of the way, we're going to have our super fight next year. So
yeah,
it's. I think British boxing fans are more interested in the potential fight after these two fights, but they're very anxious that both of our fighters come through these bouts.
Yeah, how important is it that both fighters, Fury and AJ, don't look past Usyk and Wilder?
100% fight, because simple reason is that Wilder is a former champion, and he held the belt for a long time. good few years. Usyk only knows how to win, and he's coming to win, and he wants to emulate David Hay and emulate Evander Holyfield as well. So he's coming with big, big ambitions. He's not just coming there, he fully expects to be heavyweight, like I said, unified heavyweight champion. Deontay Wilder fully expects to regain his WBC belt. They both expect to win. Deontay Wilder sees.
Do they though? Do you think Deontay Wilder? Because a lot of people don't.
Deontay Wilder thinks it was a fluke that Tyson Fury beat him. That Tyson Fury had that he had an off day. He has to believe he had an off day. He knows what Tyson Fury brings to the table, but he has to believe he had an off day. Because if he didn't believe he had an off day, he wouldn't be fighting Tyson Fury. He needs that belt back badly.
Would it be? Is it? Could it be? I'm not accusing Wilder. Could it be just for the money though?
Well, the money be very attractive, but if he's got any ounce of self-respect as a former champion, and he knows that he can buzz Tyson Fury, and he's probably kicking himself for putting himself into a situation where he wasn't able to finish him off, and he's probably angry himself. He has to go in that mindset. Says, you know what? Yeah, he probably outboxed me, but I was probably a ref's count away of knocking this man out. And if the referee counted at 10 or miscounted it, no one in boxing would have argued with that. Even Fury, because he was out cold, but he got up. So Deontay Wilder needs to hold on to that. Seriously needs to hold on to that. He needs to remember the good things he's done. And that's not me bigging up Deontay Wilder or trying to save the fight. Just if you want to forget about what happened in 2020, remember what you did well in 2018. Remember, you didn't catch Tyson Fury cleanly in the 9th round, but you still put him over.
Yeah.
You caught him and he was that cold. Everyone says he's elusive and blah, blah, elusive fighter, and that he's very hard to hit. You got through. And these are people who are saying that Deontay Wilder's got no fundamentals and no skill set, but he was still able to land cleanly on Tyson Fury's chin. Even his half blows put Tyson Fury over. He's got, Malik Scott needs to drum that into Deontay Wilder. You know what I mean? Yes, by all means, show him what happened before and beef him up and make sure he doesn't get bullied. Remember the good things he did in the first fight. Yes, he got boxed, but what's new with Deontay Wilder? That's how he's got. That's his mindset. It's got to be his mindset. If it was
he always knew that. Everyone always knew that he's one weapon. Everyone knew that he weren't the greatest boxer.
And what a lethal weapon that is, Joe. What a lethal weapon it is.
100%. Tony Bellew said. I always remember Tony Bellew saying it. That he's got one thing in his arsenal, but that thing is enough to beat 99% of heavyweights.
He doesn't even have to catch you cleanly. Remember,
exactly.
To put you over, he doesn't have to catch you cleanly. But if he catches you cleanly, properly, you stay hit.
Yeah.
You stay hit.
100%. And look, I think the cleaner ones, the two that come to mind for the cleaner ones are Ortiz in the second fight and Brazil. Like, they're the recent ones. Obviously, it's been throughout his career. But to finish up on the AJ Usyk talk, and then we'll just answer a few wider boxing questions. Where does Usyk go if he loses on Saturday night? We spoke about AJ. We spoke about the other side, Fury Wilder. Where does Usyk go?
What he does is he goes back, regroups, start taking other fights. Maybe fight Joe Joyce and try and get another chance to fight at that level. His career's not over. He's not. He's complete. He's a major underdog if you speak to a lot of people in the USA in this country. But their ability and the pedigree is there for him to come back. A loss isn't the be all and end all everything in boxing, especially where big money's involved, especially when fighters are marketable. That he may go back in the queue, but I still think he's good enough to, get back on that bike. Anthony Joshua, if he loses, he gets a rematch and tries to get his title back.
Yeah. Is he still marketable, do you think, Ken, if he loses Usyk?
That's a good question because it depends how he loses. Depends
Mm.
how he loses.
Yeah.
You know, I do agree that there are more marketable fighters in the heavyweight division than Usyk. I think Dillian Whyte is more marketable than him. He's proved that.
Yeah.
And you know, and if he, you know, he isn't able to fight in the United States, but I think if you've got someone like Matchroom, he has headlined a lot of pay-per-views. So there are people in this country and who are prepared to pay money to watch Dillian Whyte fight. So he's more marketable than Dillian. However, Usyk, again, it's how you look. It's how you look. You know, if as long as he bangs that drum as the undisputed cruiserweight champion and blah blah, and the only person who could beat me is one of the best heavyweights in his era, then I think there'd be still big fights for him. Big fights for him. I don't see him going back to cruiserweight, but you know, if people are putting him in the top five of heavyweight fighters, then of course he's going to get big fights if he is at that level, top five, and if he's ranked at that level as well, he'll get big fights.
Definitely, and obviously you're going to be there, Kenny, on Saturday. Obviously we'll update you.
Wipes because I'm an Arsenal fan in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Oh no!
Unless that where Arsenal are not playing Spurs, it's going to be like a bit difficult. And we got Spurs the next day in the North London derby as well.
Exactly.
So I'll be going to that match as well.
You'll be doubling up. You'll be in both stadiums in one weekend. I don't think there'll be too many people doing that, Kenny.
Not necessarily. I don't know. I'm not sure I should be publicising that I'm going to the fight. What if Tottenham Hotspur start selling tickets to their members?
Yeah, that you could be in trouble there, mate. You could be in trouble. But yeah, no, we'll get all the details of the plans for Fight Week on Pep Talk UK covered very shortly. And final part of the show, we'll answer some of the wider boxing questions. First one from Ben Adams. Can Crawford knock out Sean Porter? Looks like a deal's been agreed. Great fight,
yes.
Kenny.
Yes, he's an hard puncher, extremely hard puncher, and he's very skillful, and he's fighting at that southpaw level, and he's proved that because he absolutely battered Kell Brook. So yes, he can. And that is a given. He does his power. We've shown. I mean, come on. You know, Kell Brook is a hard man to put over. I've seen him get stopped on eyes, but he was actually put out, not battered.
Do you give Porter much of a chance in that fight?
No, no, I don't. I think Crawford's different levels.
Yeah, there's levels to the welterweight division, which I agree with. I think Sean Porter's up there. I really do.
He's up there, but I think you know, like Crawford and Crawford's just at that kind of different tier.
Yeah,
levity, you know what I
mean? That's why, obviously, if we don't get the Errol Spence fight, which is a fight,
I think Spence and Crawford are at another level. And, you know, Josh Taylor's going to think Wang on here. You know, I might want to have a piece of that as well.
Exactly. That was my next question, Kenny. If Josh Taylor moves up to 147 pounds, does he go to that level with Crawford and Spence?
No, because I think they're better fighters, and they're
better than Josh Taylor.
I think so. Yeah, I think Josh Taylor. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Josh Taylor's a highly skilled fighter, and he's got a lot of power. You know, at that light welterweight. But I think at welterweight, I just think that these fighters are too quick for him, and too skillful. But you know what? If he beats these two, then we're talking statues all over Scotland. Because that's how highly I rate these two. But I rate Josh Taylor very highly as well. I rate him very highly, and I think that's where he's going to test. He's going to make a test. He's going to try and test himself. Personally, I just think that those two are just so good, too good. I think for anyone in that weight class.
Oh, this is a great question, Stephen Holyfield. What if Usyk goes orthodox and AJ is training for a southpaw? Would that have an effect on the fight, in your opinion, Kenny?
Well, not really, because I think if Usyk goes orthodox, and I think what's happened is that it'll work. even though AJ should be able to adapt. It'll probably be a situation where it'd be who's going to be first to the jab and who's going to be first to the right hand. Someone as quick a fight as you are, you're a quickest when you fight a stance that you're comfortable with. Usyk is a better fighter and a quicker fighter as a southpaw. It's going to be a massive adjustment, especially when he's putting all that weight on, albeit in a scientific way, to fight at orthodox where he's just not used to it. He'll get creamed, battered.
Yeah, a bit of a random this one. Do you see Pugh fighting for the title again?
You'll never know. You'll never know. You'll never know because if the title, if AJ strips of his title, if AJ loses and the title starts, going, the other titles start going to different fighters. There's nothing to stop Pugh from, thinking, you know what, let me just staying tight. But if AJ and Fury retain their titles and they have a super fight, then I don't see where Pugh will be right at the back of the queue.
Yeah, but I think at the minute he's already at the back of the queue, in my opinion. I think
he's at the back of the queue anyway. Say Deontay Wilder wins. Usyk wins. Pugh is going to think, well, hang on it. This is my chance again.
Potentially. Obviously, we've got Joe Joyce in there. We've got Joseph Parker. We've got Derek Chisora.
Let's not forget his rematch with Derek Chisora.
Does that one excite you?
What do you think?
Do you think? Surely you think though that obviously Chisora deserves a rematch.
Well, Derek Chisora is a very, very marketable fighter because he's got a massive fan base in this country. But I think the reason why he's got a massive fan base is because it's a lot of it is due to the bad habits that where they say that we do love an underdog and we love someone who's failed at the highest level, but we just hope that he just has as much chances. I mean, Simon Jordan, was right what he said to Derek Chisora, where he's a good boxer, but every time he fought at a different level against a higher caliber fighter, he's found wanting. And I think one thing we do like about Derek is that he does take those fights and he does put bums on seats. He fights for 12 rounds. You have to take him out of there. Yes, he's outclassed, and in there are times when he's got battered. Tyson Fury battered him in a rematch at the XL Arena in 2014, where he was actually begging the referee to stop the fight. Dillian Whyte knocked him spark out. But Derek Chisora looked good because people had Derek Chisora, bizarrely, a point up, going to 11 rounds. So this is where Derek always manages to sell himself and get these fights because he looks good losing.
Yeah, and obviously the personality as well goes with it.
He's the sort of person that will turn a table over or politely kissing your lips just to get some, just to sell a fight. So he gets the public angry, and he's very much a Marmite character, and British fans love a Marmite character. We love someone to hate, especially where it's one against the other. You either love him or you hate. You love him or hate him. Love his opponent or hate his opponent. Sports fans on the whole love that. They love it.
100%. 100%. We've also got Ben Adams again. Should Conor Benn fight Keith Thurman next? That'd be a good fight.
Conor Benn, should he fight Keith Thurman? Yes, because I would like to see Conor Benn at that kind of level. You know what I mean?
For me, I'm going to say no. I think I prefer the Broner fight, just that little, for me, level below. But again, we get to see it. And final question. Well, it's not really a question, but I just want to get your opinions on this one. Chisora versus David Haye. Ha 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 ha. A rematch. He smashes Haye this time.
You know what? Again, these are two exponents of what I call where there's a penny and a pound, you'll find these two characters. And Derek Chisora and David Haye are two fighters where I think, you know what, wherever there's a penny, there's a pound. You got to love them, those two. You know what I mean? Got to love them.
I think it'd be brilliant. Like, obviously it wouldn't be, but I'd watch it, wouldn't you? You'd watch Chisora versus
Of course
Haye
I'm going
too.
to watch it. Of course I'm going to watch it. You know, Chisora probably put him out because Chisora is a live fighter.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pleasant to watch.
Do you think that fight could actually happen?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, of course it could happen because the British fans will buy into it.
Yeah.
You know that.
True. Yeah, it sells out the O2, I think.
Of course it does. It sells at the O2, and we know that David Haye is going to make an absolute wazzock of himself and look poor. We know that.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? But
extremely tough one.
Yeah, is it big? It's very strange. It's very, very strange.
Well,
but
to be honest, the thing with David Haye, you know,
yeah,
I don't know. It's David Haye has got to be the best promoter of I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, without doubt. He just knows, doesn't he? He just knows what to do, and obviously, from a retired boxer coming out of retirement to a boxer that has announced his retirement today to finish up on the show. Probably my favourite boxer of all time, Manny Pacquiao, has confirmed that he's going to retire.
Are you sure he's going to retire? I'm sure. You never know with Manny.
You never know, but he said it today, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he wants to become a Filipino. He wants to be president of the Philippines. But if he's retired and it's a genuine retirement, I've got nothing but love for the man. Got nothing but love for him because
Agreed.
You know, as the reason why I say I've got nothing but love for him because what he's given boxing, he is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Simple as. He's gone up all the weight classes. He's fought the best, beat the best.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He's come back. He's won his rematches whenever he's had them. He is, for a southpaw, for a small man, he can bang. You know what? 100%. One of the greats of all time. I wish him all the best for retirement, and it was a pleasure to watch him.
100%. He's always one of my favourite boxers. You just watch him. He's been involved in some fantastic fights. He's earned a hell of a lot of money, and he's invested it into his own country, which I think is an absolute marvel. And I don't think there'll ever be an 8-weight world champion again, certainly ever in my lifetime. I've got to be honest. And I think he will go down in history as one of the greatest. And is it the right time? Are you happy to see him retire now, Ken?
Yes, I am, because the simple reason is that, you know, I think it's for the best. He's got nothing to offer. He's only ever going to be an opponent on a payday, and he's better than that. You know, he's an old man at this level, and sometimes, right? Yeah, I know. Sometimes at the levels he's fighting, especially when it's the lighter weights, where speed and boxing ability is paramount, he's too old. Too old. You'll get found out, and you'll get hurt badly. You know what I mean? You'll get hurt.
100%.
I don't want to see the man. I don't want to see a great man hurt. You know,
you don't want to see his legacy ruined.
By all means, if you need the money, just go down to Floyd Mayweather fight and just fight exhibitions. But you know, top level fighting, forget it. You've had it. Your day's up. Yeah, your time's up. You're not good. Yeah. You know, just retire gracefully. You know.
100%, and that I think that covers about everything. We've gone through everything today. It's the start of fight week. Absolutely can't wait. Massive fight at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday night. AJ versus Usyk. Don't miss it. It's for the unified heavyweight champion of the world, the IBF, the WBA Super, and the WBO. Again, thanks for joining us tonight, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. And any final words from yourself?
Yes. My final words is that, you know, we love one of the biggest sports and the best spectator sports in the world in boxing. And one of the things I always say is that, you know, I'm all about entertainment, boxer safety, but you're going to find on Saturday that Anthony Joshua is going to be still, and I'll leave you with that, and still, I expect Anthony Joshua and still to be, but I'll be there seeing that in person, and it'd be nice to see Mike Buffer, and who knows, I might even sing along to Sweet Caroline.
Oh,
as long as people don't bastardize that song, go so good. Shut up.
That's where we disagree. That's where we disagree. There.
I don't mind it, but I don't remember Neil Diamond going so good.
I know. It's just a bit of fun, though. It's just a bit of fun.
You know what? I think what's happened is that ever since 2017, you've got Sweet Caroline is beautiful at England matches and it's beautiful at football matches. It's beautiful at boxing. But Arsenal, please do not use it as a song. It's not a football song.
Yeah, I agree. It was played at West Ham the other night when we beat, or not the other night, a couple of weeks ago when we beat Leicester. Yeah, I was a bit shocked
Come on,
about that one.
You EastEnders, right? I love your boxing.
Definitely, we do. We do love our boxing. We love our football, and I'm going to quickly just address it because in the chat there's been a lot of Mark Noble and Lingardinho comments this afternoon. Yes, I was heartbroken.
Look, you know what? Mark Noble is an institution. He's a boxing institution, mate. He's a footballing institution, and he's Mr. West Ham. I mean, he follows people like Trevor Booking, Billy Bonds, 100%. Frank Lampard Senior, Bobby Moore, Mr. West Ham. Mark Noble is definitely in that category.
100% goes in that club. I think he's the second all-time leading appearances for West Ham, second to Billy Bonds. I think I'm right in saying that, but 100%. And we've got Tips McGee. He's quickly joined us. He says, Kenny Kemp, we're going unbeaten for the rest of the season, mate. Come on, you Gunners.
One game at a time. I think when you've had our results, which we had in the first 3 games, you've got to go back to basics. You've got to make sure you're defending stoutly and make yourself difficult to beat. And you've got to make sure that, when we're on the attack, we're clinical and we score goals. At the moment, defending, we've improved, but we're not playing. We're playing Burnley and Norwich. We've got a big game in the North London derby. And our attack is just so poor at the moment. So it's still loads of work to be done. You know what I mean? But
100%. Hey ho, we've got a great night of boxing, and we will leave you there. Thank you very much for watching Pep Talk UK.
I'm trying to see if there's any more boxing gossip. So when I'm doing that,
we covered everything. I think we covered everything.
I think that's why I was able to sort of look at it because there's nothing like boxing gossip.
There's nothing, and if there is throughout the week, we'll jump on a live or whatever. But there'll be 100% content coming your way. This week, do not miss it. So smash that subscribe button, notification bell. Pet Talk UK, it's the place to be, Kent.
Yeah, definitely.
And we will see you soon. Thank you very much for joining, everyone.
Well, definitely. Question I asked you. So you don't know if you got tickets. Are you going to go to any of the weigh-ins? Or is that something you're going to negotiate?
We've got the channel's got credentials, so I think Pro B's will be in attendance, or I will. We're going to sort it out. Pet Talk UK, I will be covering the fight.
I might get a tap on the shoulder and say, from either yourself or Pro B's. You know what I mean?
You may do. It'll be a good surprise. This Saturday night, you'll be there. We'll all be watching AJ versus Usyk. Don't miss it.
Come on.